Picture this. You're at the peak of your career. Money's rolling in. Fans worship you worldwide. And then you hear God calling. These 23 stars didn't just hear the call, they answered it. And their stories will absolutely amaze you. Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington stands as one of Hollywood's most respected actors. The New York Times called him the greatest actor of the 21st century. But here's what might surprise you. This powerhouse performer seriously considered leaving it all behind to become a preacher. Washington's parents divorced when he was 14, and he was sent to a private boarding school in upstate New York to keep him out of trouble. This experience shaped his passionate advocacy for the importance of father figures in communities. As a devout Pentecostal evangelical Christian and longtime member of West Angeles Church of God in Christ in Los Angeles, Washington has never hidden his faith. During his peak years, the pull toward ministry grew stronger and stronger. In a 1999 interview, he opened his heart. "A part of me still says, maybe Denzel, you're supposed to preach. Maybe you're still compromising. I've had an opportunity to play great men and through their words to preach. I take what talent I've been given seriously, and I want to use it for good." What's even more remarkable? A woman once prophesied over his life as a young person, telling him, "You know, young fellow, you're going to travel the world and speak or preach to millions of people." She wouldn't even spell out the word prophecy, but look how it came true. Washington reads his Bible every morning, carefully chooses roles that align with his faith, and has been faithful to his church for over 3 decades. In December 2024, he took the next step, getting baptized and receiving a minister's license at Kelly Temple, Church of God in Christ in Harlem. Perhaps that prophecy is just beginning to unfold. Andrew Garfield. Here's something that'll surprise you about Spider-Man himself. Andrew Garfield didn't grow up knowing Jesus, didn't even consider himself Christian. But preparing for one movie role changed absolutely everything. When Martin Scorsese cast him as Father Sebastião Rodrigues, a Portuguese Jesuit priest in the film Silence, Garfield knew he couldn't fake his way through it. To fully embody the character, Garfield underwent the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola, the same spiritual discipline practiced by Jesuit priests. He spent time with priests, dove deep into Christian writings, and practiced Christian spiritual exercises. Father James Martin, a Jesuit priest, spent about a year teaching Garfield about Jesuit prayer and spirituality. What happened next caught everyone off guard, including Garfield himself. That was the most surprising thing. That was the most remarkable thing. Falling in love, and how easy it was to fall in love with Jesus, he shared openly. Father Martin helped him understand who God really is. And suddenly, this wasn't just method acting anymore. It became a genuine spiritual awakening that transformed how Garfield sees life, purpose, and eternity. While he hasn't left Hollywood, his approach to roles and life has fundamentally shifted. Sometimes the most unexpected encounters with faith happen when we're simply trying to do our job well. Jim Cavisel. When Mel Gibson offered Jim Cavisel the role of Jesus Christ in The Passion of the Christ, Gibson delivered a warning that proved prophetic. "This could ruin your career. You'll likely be marginalized by Hollywood." Cavisel, a devout Catholic, took the role anyway. The consequences? Exactly what Gibson predicted. Since The Passion of the Christ, Cavisel has claimed he has been blacklisted by Hollywood, with casting directors and producers openly rejecting him because of his conservative Christian beliefs and his association with the controversial film. But here's what's remarkable about Cavisel. He's never wavered. He refused to compromise his principles for roles, including turning down a love scene with actress Ashley Judd, because it conflicted with his Catholic values. When Hollywood demanded he choose between his faith and his career, he chose faith without hesitation. Despite the professional obstacles, Cavisel has continued to choose projects that align with his values, including faith-based films and roles that promote positive messages. He's spoken openly about how his Catholic faith guides every career decision, even when those choices cost him dearly. In recent years, Cavisel has become increasingly vocal about his faith and conservative political views, further solidifying his status as an outsider in mainstream Hollywood. He continues working selectively, never compromising his deeply held religious beliefs, even if it means fewer opportunities. His story proves that some things are worth more than fame and fortune. Kirk Cameron. Remember that heartthrob from Growing Pains? Kirk Cameron was living every teenager's dream in the 1980s. One of the biggest stars on television, 2 Golden Globe nominations, and screaming fans everywhere. He became famous as a teen actor playing Mike Seaver on the ABC sitcom Growing Pains, a role that made him one of the biggest heartthrobs of the 1980s. But behind the scenes, a quiet transformation was taking place. Cameron was born on October 12, 1970, in Panorama City, California, to Barbara Cameron, a homemaker, and Robert Cameron, a schoolteacher. During his teenage years, his parents were going through difficult times in their marriage. Church wasn't part of family life, and Kirk called himself a staunch atheist. He joined the entertainment industry when he was 14 and quickly became a household name. Then something beautiful happened on the Growing Pains set. A girl with a small part on the show influenced his spiritual conversion. Sometimes God uses the most unexpected messengers. His experience during his years working on the hit sitcom opened the star's eyes to the existence of God. From that moment forward, Kirk dedicated his life to sharing his Creator's message. Cameron began going to church and became a born-again Christian when he was 18, during the height of his career on Growing Pains. His conversion eventually led to his parents' marriage being restored. As he says, God saved all my family and put my parents back together. But here's where it gets interesting. Kirk didn't just quietly practice his faith. He fought with producers on the program toward the end of the series regarding his character's sinful ways, as he didn't want to portray someone being unfaithful to Christ. This led to the end of the show's successful run. After Growing Pains, Cameron became a prominent figure in Christian media, starring in faith-based films like the Left Behind series and Fireproof. He has since focused on Christian evangelism, producing and hosting religious programs like The Way of the Master, and becoming a vocal advocate for Christian values. Some mainstream audiences have even criticized his beliefs when Kirk appeared on Piers Morgan Tonight, where he made controversial statements about traditional values. He received backlash from former Growing Pains castmates and quite a few other people, but never retreated from his statements. One of his famous quotes says it all. Put your nose into the Bible every day. It is your spiritual food, and then share it. Make a vow not to be a lukewarm Christian. Alice Cooper. Here's a story that'll knock your socks off. Alice Cooper, the godfather of shock rock, famous for guillotines, electric chairs, and theatrical mayhem, is actually a devoted Christian. How's that for unexpected? Cooper grew up in a deeply Christian household. His father was a pastor and evangelist for 25 years, and his grandfather was a pastor for 75 years. As a child, Cooper used to accompany his father on missionary work with the Apache tribes in Arizona. His wife Cheryl also comes from a Christian background, as her father was a Baptist pastor. But success in rock and roll led him far from his roots. He describes himself as the real prodigal son because he grew up in the church, went as far away as I could from it, almost died, and then came back. Cooper battled severe alcoholism, reaching a point where he was throwing up blood every morning. Cooper's return to Christ occurred when he tried and eventually quit drinking alcohol in the mid-1980s. He also overcame substance dependency. At age 33, he had what he describes as a near-passing experience that led him back to the faith of his childhood. I stopped drinking, and I started going back to church. I was throwing up blood every morning. I was really struggling with alcohol, Cooper recalled. He credits his wife Cheryl with helping guide him back to church during his recovery. Today, Cooper attends a Phoenix area church regularly and speaks openly about his Christian faith. He now reads his Bible daily and attends church regularly, though he continues to perform his theatrical rock shows, seeing them as separate from his spiritual life. He sees no contradiction between his faith and his stage persona, viewing his concerts as entertainment rather than a reflection of his personal beliefs. Alice Cooper often speaks about how God allowed him to experience the emptiness of worldly success before drawing him back to faith. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen wasn't just called the King of Cool for nothing. This Hollywood legend of the 1960s and 70s had it all: fame, fortune, and that effortless charisma that made him unforgettable in films like The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, and Bullitt. He was even nominated for an Academy Award for his role in The Sand Pebbles. As a child and teenager, McQueen had a troubled upbringing. He was dyslexic, hearing impaired, born out of wedlock, mistreated, and abandoned, yet somehow overcame these traumatic early experiences. He was involved with gangs, committing crimes, and eventually spending time at the California Junior Boys Republic Public Institution. But McQueen turned his life around. He enlisted in the Marines, found stability, then pursued acting. His tough guy image and effortless charisma made him a favorite with audiences. Beyond the silver screen, he was passionate about racing and learned how to fly planes. Here's where the story gets beautiful. The pilot who taught him to fly was a gentleman in his early 60s named Sammy Mason. During their long hours together in the air talking about the meaning of life, Steve asked Mason what his secret to a happy life was. Mason sat down with the aging actor and explained who had made the difference in his life. The answer was simple: Jesus Christ. McQueen was intrigued and began regularly attending Ventura Missionary Church with Mason's family. He and Sammy met weekly for an hour of intense Bible study sessions. Then about 6 to 8 months later, while filming The Hunter, Steve became ill on set. He went in for medical tests and heard devastating news. He had cancer. McQueen told Pastor DeWitt, "So yes, I'm a born-again Christian." When McQueen passed away the following year, he was found holding Billy Graham's Bible in his arms. Even in his final moments, his faith sustained him. Johnny Cash. The man in black had a voice that could touch your soul. But Johnny Cash's personal life was often as dark as his signature wardrobe. One of the best-selling music artists of all time, with more than 90 million records sold worldwide, Cash conquered country, rock and roll, rockabilly, blues, folk, and gospel. But success brought its own demons. His rise to fame began in the mid-1950s, when he signed with Sun Records and released hits like I Walk the Line and Folsom Prison Blues. However, over the years, Johnny Cash started battling personal struggles, turning to substances and alcohol to cope with the stress of being popular. But God had other plans. Cash's journey included rediscovering his Christian faith when he took an altar call at Evangel Temple, a small church in the Nashville area, pastored by Reverend Jimmy Rogers Snow. In 1971, he answered that call at this Assemblies of God congregation, and his life transformed completely. On being born again, he said words that still inspire today. "A few years ago, I was hooked on substances. I dreaded waking up in the morning. There was no joy, peace, or happiness in my life. Then one day, in my helplessness, I turned my life completely over to God. Now I can't wait to get up in the morning to study the Bible." In the mid-1970s, Cash received a degree in theology and was ordained as a minister. He officiated at his daughter Karen's wedding and spoke passionately about salvation for those struggling with addiction. At a performance in Arkansas in 1989, Johnny Cash spoke to attendees about his commitment to the salvation of those dealing with substance dependency and alcoholism. Cash recorded several gospel albums and even made a spoken word recording of the entire New King James Version of the New Testament. He's the one who converted actor and singer John Schneider to Christianity. Toward the end of his life, he and his wife attended First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee, living proof that it's never too late for God to turn a life around. Chris Tucker. You know Chris Tucker from Rush Hour and Friday. That infectious laugh and lightning-fast comedy made him one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. His breakthrough came when he starred in the cult classic Friday as Smokey, but his role as Detective James Carter in the Rush Hour film series alongside Jackie Chan made him a global superstar. But what you might not know is how his faith completely changed his career trajectory. Tucker was born in Atlanta, Georgia, to Mary Louise and Norris Tucker, who owned a janitorial service. Growing up in a Pentecostal Christian household, his parents were members of the Church of God in Christ. But along the way, Tucker lost his connection with faith as Hollywood's success took over. Then something happened while filming Money Talks in 1997. Nobody knows exactly what occurred on that set, but Tucker's worldview shifted dramatically. He became a born-again Christian, and this change led him to become incredibly selective about his projects, often avoiding material he felt conflicted with his faith. Here's how serious he was about his convictions. Tucker refused to star in the sequel to the successful comedy Friday, turning down $10 to $12 million, according to his co-star Ice Cube. The financial sacrifice became even more significant when Tucker later revealed that when his family learned he was making $20 million a year, some family members immediately quit their jobs, expecting him to support them. He chose to appear in Rush Hour sequels because the franchise provided more family-friendly entertainment. His other notable works include roles in The Fifth Element and Silver Linings Playbook. Nowadays, Tucker isn't above taking the occasional acting role, but he spends the vast majority of his time performing family-friendly stand-up comedy. In 2014, Tucker explained his approach during an interview. He doesn't use bad language or swear in his shows because of his Christian beliefs. When choosing between money and morals, Tucker chose his faith every single time. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry's empire is built on faith, family, and resilience. But his path to success was paved with unimaginable hardship. Born Emmett Perry Jr., he changed his first name to Tyler at age 16 to dissociate himself from his abusive father. Perry's early life was marked by extreme hardship. He grew up in poverty in New Orleans, suffering brutal physical abuse at the hands of his father and severe inappropriate treatment at the hands of several adults. For years, Perry said he never felt safe inside or outside the home. But here's the remarkable part of Perry's story. After learning about his father's own traumatic childhood, including abuse, Perry has since forgiven the person who raised him, saying, to his credit, he overcame that, and I think he did the best he could. Perry didn't leave Hollywood, but he had a moment where he seriously considered abandoning his entire career. He once explained that as a deeply religious person, he considered walking away from the industry completely. However, Perry believes he can use his position in Hollywood to inspire, motivate, and change lives. He feels that as long as he can advocate for strong family values and diversity with God by his side, he's doing the right thing. Perry often includes messages of redemption and forgiveness in his films and TV shows. Many themes in his work reflect theology commonly found in predominantly African American churches, including gospel music and worship styles. His Medea character might make you laugh, but behind the humor are powerful messages about faith, family, and second chances. We're halfway through these incredible stories. If you're enjoying this journey through faith and fame, show your appreciation with a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button for more inspiring content like this. MC Hammer. You Can't Touch This made Stanley Burrell, better known as MC Hammer, a household name in the 1990s. Hammer grew up poor with his mother and 8 siblings in a small apartment in East Oakland. His mother was a secretary, while his father worked as a warehouse supervisor and struggled with the family's finances. Raised in a Pentecostal church, Hammer strayed from his Christian faith during his peak success. But life has a way of bringing us back to what truly matters. In 1996, Hammer declared bankruptcy with over $13 million in debt. During his peak success, Hammer was known for his legendary loyalty and generosity, especially to Oakland's rougher neighborhoods where he had deep roots. But this generosity contributed to his financial downfall. During these struggles, Hammer experienced a religious awakening and seriously considered going into ministry full-time. In the late 1990s, he reinvented himself with the album Family Affair, featuring spiritual positive lyrics reflecting his newfound devotion to Christ. Hammer hosted MC Hammer and Friends, a Christian ministry program on Trinity Broadcasting Network, and appeared on Praise the Lord programs, where he went public about his commitment to ministry. As an ordained minister, Hammer has officiated celebrity weddings, including those of Corey Feldman and Vince Neil. During a TBN interview, Hammer revealed he adopted the MC back into his name, now standing for Man of Christ. Today, Hammer continues preaching while still making music, running businesses, and devoting time to prison and youth ministries. His story proves that sometimes losing everything materially helps us find everything spiritually. Patricia Heaton. Patricia Heaton charmed audiences as Deborah Barone on Everybody Loves Raymond and Frankie Heck on The Middle, winning 2 Emmy Awards along the way. But her journey to Hollywood success was built on a foundation of deep faith and personal tragedy. Heaton was raised as the 4th of 5 children in a devout Catholic family. Her sister Sharon became a Dominican nun, and her family has deep Catholic roots. Her grandparents met Pope John Paul I, and her mother was one of 15 children. When Heaton was 12 years old, her mother passed away suddenly of a brain aneurysm, creating a profound emotional and spiritual crisis that lasted for years. As a young Catholic girl raised to believe that suffering is what you do, her mother's unexpected passing challenged her faith in ways that took years to resolve. Despite being raised Catholic, Heaton later became Presbyterian while maintaining her Christian identity. "I was raised Catholic, and I'm Presbyterian now, but I have always been a Christian, regardless of denomination," she explains. Heaton has credited her deepening Catholic faith as the turning point in aligning her ambitions with God's will, describing herself as anti-helicopter parent who trusts in divine guidance for her children. Unlike many Hollywood celebrities, Heaton has found that her faith has actually been welcomed in her career. "God has been very gracious to me," she notes, explaining that she's never had to be morally compromised in her television shows. Her strong Catholic faith has enhanced her career, as both Everybody Loves Raymond and The Middle featured family-centered themes that aligned with her values. Heaton has become one of the few outspoken conservative voices in mainstream Hollywood, frequently speaking about issues like religious freedom and family values. Angus T Jones. Here's a story that shocked Hollywood. Angus Jones was living every kid's dream, starring as Jake Harper on 2.5 Men, one of television's biggest hits. At his peak, Jones was earning $300,000 per episode, making him one of the highest-paid child actors in television history. But as Angus matured, so did his faith. In November 2012, Jones announced he'd been baptized as a Seventh-day Adventist and no longer wanted to appear on the show, calling it filth that conflicted with his religious views. "I just had this big wake-up call. I felt God was speaking to me. There were so many other things I could have steered off into that could have made me just another statistic," Jones explained. Jones felt incredibly guilty being part of a series filled with topics of inappropriate behavior, drinking, substances, and debauchery. He had a very hard time reconciling his devout Christian faith with his career. On March 18, 2014, Angus T Jones officially announced his departure from the show, saying, "You cannot be a true God-fearing person and be on a television show like that." According to Angus, he felt like a hypocrite during his final years on 2.5 Men because the series' themes didn't align with his religious views. After breaking free from the series, he became an outspoken critic of the show, even encouraging viewers to stop watching. His decision cost him millions, but Angus chose his soul over his salary, a choice that takes incredible courage at any age. Stephen Baldwin. Stephen Baldwin, the youngest of the 4 Baldwin brothers, found his way to God after the September 11th attacks in 2001. Before his conversion, Stephen acted in films like Biodome and The Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas, Born on the 4th of July, 8 Seconds, Threesome, and The Usual Suspects. While neither Biodome nor The Flintstones were critically successful, they were both big hits with audiences and helped Stephen make a memorable impression during his time in the industry. According to Stephen Baldwin's book titled The Unusual Suspect, which highlights his personal life, career, and struggles with substance dependency, he became a born-again evangelical after the September 11th attacks. The book reveals Baldwin's struggles with substance abuse, chronicling his battles with dependency that preceded his spiritual awakening. In 2008, Baldwin partnered with conservative talk radio host Kevin McCullough for Baldwin McCullough Radio. As of April 18, 2009, the show aired on 213 stations and in more than 400 cities across the U.S. and worldwide. Stephen's radio work allowed him to share his faith globally. When asked if being outspoken about his faith affected his Hollywood career, Baldwin was brutally honest. Yes and no. It's unfortunate that because I have believed in Jesus for 15 years, there are many in Hollywood who are unwilling to work with me. That's not a guess. Casting people and producers have told me they've brought up my name in a room, and the response was, "No way. We're not bringing that person and his Bible over here." Baldwin's willingness to speak this truth publicly shows the real cost of faith in Hollywood, but also the courage it takes to stand firm in your convictions when your career is on the line. Vanity, Denise Matthews. Denise Matthews, popularly known as Vanity, was a Canadian singer, actress, and model who rose to fame in the 1980s as the lead singer of the girl group Vanity 6, with the release of their hit single Nasty Girl in 1982. Vanity became an iconic beauty and a major figure in the music world, working closely with Prince, who created the group specifically for her talents. In addition to her music career, Vanity appeared in several films including The Last Dragon and Action Jackson. Matthews grew up in an alcoholic and abusive home in Ontario, Canada. When her father passed away when she was 15, she hoped to escape the mistreatment, but the situation didn't improve. Her mother suffered from chronic alcoholism and made daily self-harm attempts. At age 17, Matthews fled to New York City, leaving her mother alone with her addictions. In 1992, while filming Da Vinci's War, Vanity met actor Sam Jones, who invited her to read the Bible with him during a lunch break. Shortly after, Vanity became a born-again Christian, and in several interviews, she stated that she would not play any more adult roles. She even renounced her stage name Vanity and reverted to Denise Matthews. In 1994, Matthews was hospitalized for 3 months for near-fatal kidney failure from substance overdose. She recalled later that after being rushed to the hospital, doctors said she had 3 days to live. While on life support, she explained that Jesus appeared to her at this time and spoke to her, saying that if she promised to abandon her vanity persona, he would save her. Revealing in an interview, she said, "With the devil breathing down my neck, trying desperately to snatch and strangle me for hell, I repented." Upon her recovery, Matthews ended her performing career by cutting off all ties with Hollywood and shunning her former life in show business. After a kidney transplant in 1997, Matthews dedicated the rest of her life full-time to Christ. She made speaking engagements at churches worldwide and headed Pure Hearts Ministries in Fremont, California. Unfortunately, she passed away on February 15, 2016, due to kidney failure, but her legacy of transformation continues to inspire people around the world. Montel Jordan. This Is How We Do It. That 1995 hit made Montel Jordan a household name and party anthem for the ages. Born on December 3, 1968 in Los Angeles, California, Jordan was a prominent figure in the 1990s R&B scene, with his debut song becoming an anthem for parties and celebrations. The single topped the Billboard Hot 100 chart for 7 weeks. After the success of This Is How We Do It, Jordan released several other albums and singles, including hits like Something for Day Honeys and Let's Ride. Jordan grew up with his family, who were members of a Baptist church. But as his musical career took off, Jordan abandoned his Christian principles to appear as an R&B artist. Jordan later acknowledged that with success came an open invitation to inappropriate behavior, which eventually impacted not only his life but also his marriage and career. After leaving his record label in 2010, Jordan planned a comeback album as his foray back into the music industry. However, during a fast at Victory World Church, Jordan said God told him to quit the music industry. He decided to cancel his plans and dedicate his life to his faith. Jordan is now a born-again Christian, serving at Victory Church, formerly Victory World Church, in Norcross, Georgia, where he lives and worships. In addition to becoming a minister, he's released his own gospel album called Shake Heaven. Jordan has also become a mentor to other Christian artists, notably helping save rapper Lecrae's marriage from divorce through pastoral counseling. From This Is How We Do It to This Is How We Serve. Montel Jordan's transformation shows that God can use anyone, anywhere, to reach people for his kingdom. Dolores Hart. Here's a story straight from old Hollywood that reads like a fairy tale, except it's completely true. Dolores Hart was one of the most promising young actresses of the late 1950s and early 60s, gaining fame as Elvis Presley's co-star in Loving You. She became the first person to kiss Elvis on screen, launching both their careers into the stratosphere. Born to teenage parents who eventually divorced when she was 3, Dolores was mostly raised by her grandparents. Her parents were both actors, though neither became stars, and she was baptized in the glow of Hollywood from an early age. She is the niece of legendary singer Mario Lanza through marriage. Hart went on to star opposite Elvis again in King Creole and appeared in other films like Where the Boys Are and Francis of Assisi. Her Hollywood career was flourishing when, at the height of her success, she made a life-altering decision that shocked the entertainment world. When she left Hollywood, Hart also broke off her engagement to Los Angeles businessman Don Robinson, who had given her a diamond ring. In 1963, she joined the Benedictine Abbey of Regina Laudis in Bethlehem, Connecticut, becoming a Roman Catholic nun. Her final screen appearance was in the Virginian television episode The Mountain of the Sun, which aired on April 17, 1963. During an interview with Fox News, she was asked about Elvis and why she left Hollywood. Her response was touching. "I remember one moment when we were taking a break from filming. He walked over to me, handed me a Bible, and said, 'Miss Dolores, would you open this book? What do you see? What does it mean to you?' And so I offered my opinion on what I was seeing, and from there we spent time between scenes talking about the Bible." She continued, I think it's important for anyone to understand that it was a dramatic change. It wasn't something I planned on. I thought I would go through my time in Hollywood. However, this vocation showed me my life's purpose. Then I started asking myself, what am I doing in Hollywood? Where is this going to take me? The realization became clear. And really, it's a gift. I was so lucky God called me. Dolores' journey was documented in God is the Bigger Elvis, nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary. Sherri Shepherd. Sherri Shepherd brought laughter to millions as a co-host on The View and through her stand-up comedy career. She was also known for her work as an actress, comedian, author, and television personality, landing roles in TV shows like Suddenly Susan and Everybody Loves Raymond. But her path to faith wasn't always smooth. It was marked by family disruption and personal crisis. She was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, but became disillusioned with religion in the early 1990s. As a Jehovah's Witness, Shepherd experienced significant family disruption when the religion forced her to stop talking to her beloved father after he questioned the faith, a rule that deeply troubled her. Shepherd began in stand-up comedy before transitioning to acting. However, she became famous after she joined The View as a co-host in 2007. Alongside her work on The View, Shepherd appeared in films like Precious and TV shows such as 30 Rock. She said she began moving closer to God when her mother was passing away, after she got evicted and was dealing with a stalking ex-boyfriend all at the same time. These multiple crises occurred simultaneously, creating what Shepherd described as an overwhelming period that drove her to seek God's help. During her time as co-host of The View, she was very open about her faith and the heavy impact that it constantly had on her life. About her past comedy style, she explained, "It was dirty. I thought I had to be Eddie Murphy, and it was working. It was very dirty, vulgar, and blue. I had a following. I had a huge gay following because I did all the clubs in West Hollywood, all the gay pride parades and festivals. When you go into those kinds of clubs, all male clubs, it lends itself to being blue. I would get on stage and do an hour. Oh goodness, I was so blue, but I got a big following. It was very hard to let all that material go because I lost a lot of my following." Shepherd is now an evangelical Christian, proving that God can transform anyone's story, even a comedian's routine. Neal McDonough. Neal McDonough has built a respected career across film and television, from Band of Brothers to Captain America, the First Avenger. But his unwavering Catholic faith once got him blacklisted in Hollywood. In 2003, McDonough married Ruve Robertson, a South African model he met in the United Kingdom while filming Band of Brothers. His marriage vows became his professional principles. McDonough refuses to perform intimate scenes or take the Lord's name in vain in any of his roles because of his faith and respect for his wife. In 2010, he was reportedly fired from the TV series Scoundrels for refusing to perform intimate scenes. We all know that I went through troubles years back because I won't kiss another woman on screen. At the time, it was painful. I didn't work for 2 years. I lost everything: house, cars, and this and that. It was one of the most brutal times in my life. I am very religious. I put God and family first and me second. That's what I live by. It was hard for a few years, McDonell told Fox Business. His story proves that sometimes standing for your principles costs everything, but keeping your integrity is worth more than any role. Zachary Levi. Zachary Levi charmed audiences as Chuck Bartowski in Chuck, and later as the superhero Shazam in the DC films. But behind the smiles was a struggle that nearly cost him everything. Levi endured a traumatic childhood marked by mistreatment and neglect, particularly from his mother, who therapists later speculated suffered from borderline personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies. During one particularly painful exchange, his mother told him, "I'd be happier today if you were no longer here." From a young age, feelings of anxiety and depression were normalized in his life to the point that he didn't know anything was wrong. He turned to substances and alcohol to cope with his pain. But it wasn't until his 2015 divorce from actress Missy Peregrine that he faced real crisis. Levi had a mental breakdown and was struggling with severe thoughts of self-harm. Remembering that moment, he said, "Ever since I was a little kid, I had a very real faith, and I have always leaned into God. I got to this place where to feel abandoned and to feel like I didn't want to live anymore really shook my faith." After what he cheekily refers to as a whole big fun breakdown, Levi spent 3 weeks in a mental health facility receiving intensive therapy. After this intensive program, Levi's faith was restored and his mental health stabilized. He revealed that God helped him recover from depression. Although he hasn't left Hollywood, he remains stronger in his faith than before. His story shows that even our darkest moments can become our greatest testimonies. Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey has entertained millions as host of Family Feud and through his stand-up comedy. But his journey to success was paved with homelessness and heartbreak. Harvey was born in Welch, West Virginia, and grew up in a challenging environment marked by poverty and family hardships. He also struggled with a debilitating stutter as a child, which added to his challenges. Harvey's mother was a Sunday school teacher, planting seeds of faith early. But it wasn't until he met his wife Marjorie that everything changed. Harvey shared his testimony of how he was homeless for 3 years and heard the voice of God at his lowest point. During this homeless period, Harvey was sleeping in his car and showering at gas stations, completely worn out by poverty and sick of himself for not pursuing his God-given gift. He said, "I was so lost. I stopped talking to God about my decisions. I was just doing what I wanted to do." After marrying Marjorie in 2007, Harvey told HuffPost Live, "I wasn't who I wanted to be in life. A woman changed all that. The Lord saved my soul. Marjorie saved my life." Harvey has openly discussed his Christian faith over the years, often featuring Christian guests on The Steve Harvey Show. His transformation from homeless to household name proves that God's timing is always perfect. Gary Buucy. Gary Buucy earned an Academy Award nomination for portraying Buddy Holly in The Buddy Holly Story and won the National Society of Film Critics Award for Best Actor. His other memorable roles include A Star is Born, DC Cab, Silver Bullet, and Eye of the Tiger. But it took a life-threatening accident to wake him up spiritually. The actor became a born-again Christian after suffering a life-threatening motorcycle accident on December 4th, 1988. Buucy was not wearing a helmet during the accident, which resulted in a fractured skull and permanent brain damage. In 1996, Buucy publicly announced his faith. "I am proud to tell Hollywood I am a Christian. For the first time, I am now free to be myself." He mentioned that the motorcycle accident, as well as a 1995 substance overdose, strengthened his Christian faith. Buucy claims that during the accident, he passed away and came back, experiencing what he describes as being surrounded by angels. Buucy didn't leave Hollywood, but became much more selective about roles. His faith led him to complicate the production of the 2003 film Quigley. According to actor Curtis Armstrong, Buucy stopped filming because of his problem with the movie's depiction of heaven. In an interview with the AV Club, Armstrong revealed how Buucy forced filming to stop. Buucy supposedly had done this. He'd been in an accident and passed away and came back. He showed up on a set made to look like heaven, and he looked around and said, "I can't play this scene. It's nothing like this. I've been to heaven, and it doesn't look like this. That sofa's all wrong. That mirror is ridiculous. They don't even have mirrors." Buucy even got into a physical altercation with another actor over the matter. Even if it meant conflict on set, Buucy wouldn't compromise what he'd experienced firsthand. Brian Welch. Brian Welch helped found the Innu metal band Korn, whose aggressive sound and raw lyrics made them one of the most influential bands in the metal genre. The Chicago Tribune called the rap metal band perverts, psychopaths, and paranoiacs. Their music was as dark as it gets. The group's songs like Freak on a Leash and Make Me Bad had lyrics that were explicit and very, very dark. During his career, Welch struggled with severe substance dependency, at one point using methamphetamine for 700 consecutive days. He was living a lifestyle that was completely destructive. In 2005, Welch shocked the music world by announcing he'd left Korn after becoming a born-again Christian. The band released a statement informing the public that they had parted ways with their rock guitarist, Brian Welch, who has chosen the Lord Jesus Christ as his Savior and will be dedicating his musical pursuits to that end. Though some thought it was a practical joke, Welch showed up at Valley Bible Fellowship the following Sunday and told the crowd of 10,000, "I am the happiest person in the world right now." Welch's faith journey became even more challenging when his daughter Janaea struggled with addiction, depression, and self-harm, experiences that tested his own recovery and faith. In late 2008, Welch appeared alongside other celebrities like Josh Hamilton and Greg Ellis in testimonial videos called I Am Second, where he shares his story of recovering from substance use with the help of his faith in Jesus Christ. From the darkest metal to the brightest light, Brian Welch's transformation proves that no one is too far gone for God's grace. Alexa Penova. Alexa Penova charmed audiences as Carmen Cortez in the Spy Kids films and in Sleepover. Born Alexa Eles Vega on August 27, 1988, she met her now husband Carlos Pena at a Bible study, and their love story led to a complete life transformation. Before her marriage, Penova was briefly married to producer Sean Covell from 2010 to 2012. After marrying Carlos, Penova found her identity in Christ and left Hollywood. The couple took their family and moved to Hawaii in 2017. Alexa and her husband have found success taking on projects that align with their values. They've starred together in multiple movies and series, including The Power Couple, available on PureFlix. I felt this tug in my heart. I felt it was God going, "You guys need to get out of here. It's time." I didn't want to move. I knew it was the right decision, but it wasn't something I was excited about. My job became my identity. God pulled me out of that so I could learn how to be an awesome mom and an awesome wife. God helped us build that foundation in our family. And once I had that revelation, I felt at peace, she explained. From Hollywood spotlight to Hawaiian sunsets, sometimes God's greatest blessings come when we're willing to step away from what we thought we wanted. These 23 incredible stories prove that fame and fortune pale in comparison to finding your true purpose. Whether they left Hollywood completely or stayed to make a difference, each one chose faith over fear. If their courage to follow God inspires you, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments which story touched your heart the most. There are so many more inspiring stories waiting to be told.